and it's going to be a show and tell. He brought some things with him, and I'm sure he'll take questions afterwards. Brian, the floor is yours.
Well, I wasn't sure whether to come dressed up or filthy because I figured most people wouldn't know me if I was clean. But I have been here. I met Robert at some point in time, and it was suggested that maybe I take a look at the clubhouse, or I think it was this building, and didn't work out for us, but I guess we had a nice chat. So I've been in here probably about, what would you say, maybe 2 years, 2 to 3 years maybe?
I think more than that.
More than that?
Yeah, more than
So, and I've worked on a number, as a matter of fact, I just went looking for a name in my Tivoli, because Tivoli has their own section. This is like family to me, so they have their own section, and I didn't realize how many I've worked on individual houses. As Jay said, there's probably a few houses to where I've done in excess of 3 repairs on one house. That's the bad news. The good news is there's critical areas on homes, and those are areas that get a lot of water travel. And the issue that I have found out here, because I don't just fix leaks, I diagnose. I want to know what the situation is, why is it happening, and there's multiple causes in some of these areas. One, it is a design, what I call a design flaw. The architect would probably argue with me. But the other thing is some of the materials are breaking down quicker than normal, and they're in high velocity water areas, where water is getting under the tile, and it's almost like a mountain releasing all the water down the ravines, and you touch the rocks on the side and they're very smooth, just the water wears things out. Sun would be the second enemy, but the tile covering up the paper, that's not too bad unless it's in a valley. Now the valleys are normally 20 to 22 years. I have fixed about 4 or 5 in here. The rest are what they call flashings, walls, and high travel areas. That's where I've done most of the work. My calculation is I've done between probably 300 and 400 repairs in here over that amount of time. I'm in here during the summertime anywhere between 2 and 4 days a week, because I push, this isn't going to sound nice, but I push all my other clientele off because this is my #1 community. So I try to keep everybody happy here, and then I just, 1 or 2 days a week, I jump and do some of my other stuff. I am owner-operator, so I do all my own repair work. Now, again, Jay was asking me questions about re-roofs. Being in here this amount of time, I figured these houses out like I designed them myself, and I was the one that made the mistakes. That's how I've detected all these things. So when I go to a repair now, some of the people say, "You going in the attic?" And I go, "No, I know exactly what's happening," because it's happened 20, 30 times on the other houses. I was asked, do I do re-roofs? Do I do the whole roof? And yes, I do. As a matter of fact, as we speak now, I'm doing an 11,000 square foot home in the Polo Club. I've worked in Palm Beach. I've done re-roofs there as well. I've got amazing crews that do that. Of course, I'm not doing it, but I do, either me or my partner, but for Tivoli, it would be me. I man all my jobs. I don't leave a supervisor on the job. I'm there because I want to make sure it's done the way I want to do it. Those high critical areas are where you're having the problems now because they weren't addressed properly when they were done the first time. Those are the issues that I like to address. The other thing is you get a lot of different companies come in here and they give you 25 choices. I base new roofs on 2 things: the functionality, or the leak proof, and the strength against the hurricane. And which we're going to get both of those in Florida. We get so much humidity, so much expansion and contraction that there's only certain things I'm going to do. What you have here is a nail-on system. That is what puts the tile and secures it to the roof. So you put brand new paper down, and these houses were done with the least expensive, of course, because it's all construction done. And then you put 3,000 nails in it. And they expect that to last 20 or 25 years. It's not going to happen. It's only rated also at 110 miles an hour against hurricanes. So you get 130, you're going to start flipping these tile. So I'm not a nail-on guy. It's more expensive to use the adhesive foam, but they're rated between 160 and 180, and you get no nails that go through your felt paper. Codes only go so far. There's 3 or 4 facets to codes. Everything else is going to be labor intensive. It's going to be, do you know what you're doing? And are you using high quality materials that code doesn't talk about, such as roofing cement? They've got thousands of brands, but there's only 2 I'll pick out of the 2 because I know that they are 10 to 15 years to the sun. Under the tile, you're going to get the 18, 22 years that you're looking for before leaks start. In Florida, it's not that you're not going to get leaks, but they've been leaking here since 10 years. So that's totally unacceptable. When you get around 17, 18, you get your first leak, that's normal. A couple of years later, after 20, they start happening a little more. I try to tell people it's like human beings. You shouldn't be seeing the doctor every week at 40, 50 years old. But when you start getting around 70 or 80, it might make a little bit difference. So I brought a couple of pieces just to kind of show you some of the materials, but there's 2, maybe 3. I got to check with the building department to see if I can slide on one of these. But there's a couple of things types of roofs that I want to put down, both based on waterproofing and strength. And they kind of look like this. I'll have to talk later to you. Okay. This is a TU. I use TU Max. It's a very strong paper. It doesn't penetrate. Okay. So this you actually stick direct to deck. You peel this off. I know this sounds like almost cheesy, but you peel this off. Now, if I was to bring a hair dryer and heat this up, my thumb wouldn't come off of here. Or like sometimes I will get a big sheet of paper and I'm trying to put it down and they touch, and I'm the most maddest person in the world because I just wasted a 6-foot piece of paper. I can't get it apart. So it's really strong. Now the direct to deck means this is the paper you have on there first, and they fasten this paper with nails and those silver little circular tags that you might see when you're driving through neighborhoods. And then they put a mop, 90 pound. This is 110 pound paper. This is a lot stronger. The 90 pound is just very inexpensive. That's why a lot of people go with it, and they sell it. And they sell nail-ons through it. It's a no-no. I just replaced a roof on another, 103, so a 10,000 square foot home. We just got done with it. That 14 years he had 8 leaks that we knew about. When we tore it off, we changed 28 pieces of plywood. And that was because they used the foam, which is 160 to 180 degree mile an hour winds, but foam and 90 pound are enemies. The foam is made for this paper, but somebody sold them the cheaper paper and put the foam on it and said, have a nice day. I know he'll outlive his warranty. So I don't recommend 90 pound at all anymore. I recommend it's called modified. Now this is a modified peel and stick because I don't carry the mop-on grade around with me. But it's the same type of paper except it peels off like this. Now the direct to deck means you don't get this paper. One of these 2 sheets of paper is going to stick directly to the plywood. When it goes to the plywood and that heat, the summer heat hits it, it's over. The only way that paper's coming up is if it rips the plywood and the trusses off. How do I know that? We tore off a roof, a shingle roof, to where they did a 20 by 20 section, and they did the repair, which they should have never done, but they did the repair straight to the deck with this stuff. Well, with something like this. And my guys tried to peel it off because they couldn't find the trusses to re-nail the roof. So they're trying to peel it off. Well, after about a half an hour, they said, boss, we can't peel it off. So we had to find the trusses and chalk lines so we could re-nail. So when I say it sticks to the plywood, I don't know what they're going to do when you tear it off after that, because there's got to be a new code that they're going to have to make, but it's a very strong roof. Then we apply the foam, set the tile, and nothing goes nowhere. The only thing is you're only getting 1 sheet of paper, so you're not getting the 2. You're not getting the 2. You're getting this, but it's a stronger roof, and I've done a couple of repairs on direct to deck, and I asked the homeowner, how many leaks have you had? And both of them said, this is the first leak we've had. And one of them was a vent leak. It was 11 years, and it was installed wrong. The second one was a solar panel, so it was something that was put on after the roof, but he hadn't had any leaks for 17 years. So I'm pretty sold on a single ply as long as everything is done correct. Penetrations are done right, flashings are done right. The paper itself is not going to give way for probably 18 to 20 years. So you're getting what you would normally get out of a roof. The other one is when we put this down, fasten it down, and mop with the hot tar this paper here. That is a 25 to 30 year roof, again using the adhesive foam because that's all I use, which then gives you both strength and waterproof longevity. So that's kind of, what they wanted you to know. So again, you guys are 17 years, approximately, give or take. Even though I have done 3 repairs on some houses, those are, again, all critical areas. Is the whole roof bad? Absolutely not. The field portion of the roof, that means if you're looking at your roof and all you see is tile, there's no walls, there's no different sections, that's called the field. That is good for another 10 years. Every time I do a vent, I get into the field, because that's where the vents are. I get into the field, and around it, it looks like they just put the paper on yesterday. But the penetration, they use cheap roofing cement, so it peels away from the vent, and the water starts leaking. They did the same with the flashings. They used inexpensive nails, and that's why the nails are rusting early. I've got some sections that I do the whole section. I don't just take and say, your leak's here, I'll fix that. I do the whole section because I tried that when I first got here, and I fixed that one, and 6 months later I had to go up higher, and 6 months later I had to go up higher. So it's just better to go ahead and do it because you're still getting the same amount of water travel. If it's happening here, it's going to happen within that water line. So those are the reasons why I only use what I use, and as far as pricing goes, good luck. Every day is different. It used to be that we could give a quote and material prices never changed. I mean, I'm talking 15 years back in the 80s, and I've been doing this since 1982. Back in the 80s and 90s, it's just, prices never changed. Even the early 2000s, it wasn't until after Hurricane Wilma that things started to change a lot, and now the economy's just, everything's everywhere. So pricing is, you get a price, and it's already in the agreement. I base my prices on, I don't upcharge on material, I don't upcharge on labor, and then I just add profit. In the midst of the end of the bill, because we're writing a contract and your tile are 3 to 6 months out. So in 3 to 6 months, a lot of stuff can change. So what ends up happening is some materials, believe it or not, might go down. They've got in big shipments and they were able to lower the pricing, some go up. I take my Excel sheet on how I bid your job out, and I then put the new price, what I paid for everything, and if it's more, I add, and if it's less, I subtract, and whatever the total is how I equate that final payment, so to speak. I just want everything to be fair for you, fair for us, but primarily that you get a job that is going to be something that you can feel secure about for longer than 10 years before you start having issues. So, and again, as these times come, 20 years is the average with this roof that you have here. Outside of all the problems you've already had, I would say I'd start thinking about it. I'd start thinking that at the 20-year mark, I've done roofs at 27 years, 26, they were installed differently. The materials were good that they put on there, the labor was good. They started having leaks at 20 years. Paid their leaks through 24, 25, decided to get it done. Here, you've been having them since 10, 11, 12 years. I would say probably 19 to 21 is going to be your range, unless you want to just keep dumping repair money. So what we call good after bad, just keep dumping, but I'd rather take that money after a while and say, listen, I've only got a year left on the roof anyway, why put in another repair? Or heck, I just had a repair 2 months ago, now I got another one. So that's where you would do that. Yes, sir.
Are you using the tile over?
No.
All
No.
new tile?
Huh?
All new tile?
All new. Everything is new. The only thing we don't take up is the plywood. Everything is new, and the reason being is tile gets discontinued 6 years, 8 years, 10 years down the road. Your tile's discontinued. Insurance companies, if they found out we use the same tile, wouldn't insure you. That's one of the reasons why, if you get a hurricane within the next year or two, and it tears a third or a quarter of your roof off, you're getting a new roof from your insurance company because they can't find the tile. Now, if they can find the tile, the code and the law is less than 25% of your roof being harmed, they can pay for a repair. It has to be over 25, but if they can't find the tile, theoretically, 8, 10, 15 tile come off your roof, they have to buy a new roof. They're gonna argue with you, but they do.
How do you fasten the tile down?
Right now, they're nails.
Yeah, I know.
Right, I fasten it with an adhesive foam. It's a poly foam, and it's very, very strong. There's a 1-part and a 2-part. We couldn't get the 2-part through COVID. They lost a couple of components, but now it's around again. It's very strong. The 1-part's not as strong, but the 2-part foam is, I'll give you, for instance, I did a repair. I came back from South Carolina. I moved away for a little bit. I came back and I got back into the business again. And I hadn't been using foam. I left in '97. Foam wasn't around. It only came, or it started to come around. So I'm doing a repair, and you lift the tile. They're nails. Well, it wouldn't move. So I'm thinking, well, maybe it's cement, because that's the old system. Maybe they cemented it on. I couldn't, I would get my bar under, and I could hear a noise. I got so mad, I took a hammer and smashed the tile. And it was full of foam underneath there, and I'm like, this stuff is that good? And I had to scrape and pry to get one tile up, scrape and pry to get another, so it is very, very strong stuff, if it's applied properly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is it true that no longer make these barrel tiles?
No, they still make them. Yeah, they still make them. What's happening is we go through trends. You know, it's like clothes. You know, I'd like to find an old pair of bell bottoms. I hear they're coming back, but we lost those for a while. What happens is flat tile. People got tired of roll tiles, so now shopping centers and homeowners, and they want flat tiles. So that's why flat tile's harder to get. But no, I'm doing a roof. The roof I'm doing right now is roll tile. So yeah, they'll always do that.
Do you do gutters as well?
I have a gutter guy.
Okay.
I have a guy that I've been using for 4 years who comes behind me if we have to remove your gutters because we can't get the roof off without it, and you have to put up new gutters. Yeah, he does an amazing job. He's very fair, and he's never given me a bad complaint. So yes, we kind of work together.
Does your insurance company have a preference as to the stick-on or the nail-on? Would they enter into it?
No, insurance companies, as far as I know. Now, I've worked with insurance companies for about 1.5 years in the roofing industry, so we used to go back and forth. As long as it's based on code, they don't have an issue. So, the only thing you can put there, you can't put anything that's against code. Once you get it inspected, it would fail. So no, the insurance companies wouldn't be dealing with that, but you will, I believe, get better ratings depending on some extra phases that you may get done, which at the time you guys want to do it, I can explain those to you.
And could you give a rough idea for the homes, the smaller homes, today's prices, what you'd be looking at?
What do you consider a smaller home?
Chardonnay.
No, but I mean, what's the square footage?
Okay, 2,300 square foot.
Okay, 2,300 square feet, you're probably looking at right around between 21, 22,000.
Okay.
Yeah, right now it's going anywhere between 900 and 950 a square for the single ply. but then you have to add, depending, that's where because I have to do percentages. When you get into the mop-on, now you got double labor here, you got labor and double, extra material and labor. This one, it's single direct right to the deck. It's one labor, one paper. If you use this is 2 square per roll. This is 1 square, so it's double material plus you get labor here and labor here. Plus you got hot tar, so this gets more expensive. This one here would probably come in at, if we're able to get away, depending, and that is all stacks and vents and valleys and stuff like that, but let's just say we get away at $9.25 a square for this, then you're probably going to add anywhere between 110 and maybe 140 a square on top of that. So you're talking, say 100. You're talking 925, 1025, 1075, somewhere in there. So it becomes more because it's more labor intensive, more materials. I'm just going to yell. I got a big voice.
Just a quick question. Would you offer a bulk price type of a set? Meaning if
there's
10
30
people or whatever the number is.
Right.
Would be
I tell people
at once.
I tell people I can knock off, 100 here, a couple hundred there. I'm not a huge company. That's what makes me different. I decided to stay small so I could be very attentive. But trying to be non-rude. If I give too big a deals, then I take it out of the company, out of the family, out of everything else. So, and that's also, when you give deals like that, yes, it can happen better if I was doing 10 in a row. Not, I get 10, but we're doing ours next year, and we got 2 this year, yeah.
But I'm saying.
Yeah, if I did like 30 of them, 20, yeah, then I could give a little bit of a cut to where, but it all comes off the profit, because it doesn't come out of labor or material.
Wouldn't you get a better price for the materials if you buy that involved?
It's not really, it's not like, I have to buy 18-wheeler trucks, and I don't even have a warehouse. I don't even have a warehouse to fill that, so yeah, for me, being a smaller company, it's just a little bit different.
Now, if you were doing 10 houses in a row at the same time, you would have to hire a lot of, would you have to hire?
I have, because I'm a smaller company, I have a larger friend of mine who I get sub-companies from, sub-crews, but I've been using the same guys for 7 years, so I know them personally. But yeah, I've got access to 3 crews of 10 guys apiece.
So in other words, like first they would put the paper down,
Mhm.
and you would go to every single house that had the paper and say, good, you did a good job, or would you just say, you would trust that?
No, I don't trust nobody.
So in other words, you would go to every house and
Yeah,
say,
I don't trust my wife.
and then they would do the tar or something, and you would say, good.
Yeah.
So
No, I will be on the job. I would actually, if we did this, I would have to give up the repair portion probably, because I would be here that much.
So even though you may not work on each house.
Oh no, I'll supervise, yeah.
Each 10 house, you
Right.
would.
I would sign, well, in my mind, I would sign off on it. I would check all the critical areas. Is the roofing cement laid right? Is it too thick? Is it too thin? Did they use the fabric I was telling them to use, or the one I put on the job instead of pulling something out of their truck? Yeah, absolutely. Either me or my partner. And my partner sometimes tends to be even pickier than I am, so, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, somebody new? Somebody in the back here? Okay, Bob.
Of the 2 systems that you showed us, which one do you prefer to do?
Oh, I like the mop-on. Yeah, it's more expensive, but it's definitely a much more foolproof roof, for sure. I think that the adhesive sticks a little bit better to that on the tile. It sticks good to that too, but I think it sticks better to that. Yeah, Ben.
I think you'll agree that it's always better to deal with a problem before it happens instead of after it happens.
Meaning?
Meaning that none of us is going in the attic looking for leaks, and by the time the ceiling is dripping, it's kind of late. You shared with me some things that you could look at in the exterior of the house to see if you might be having a problem. I wonder if you could share that with the group.
Okay. I've done some inspections here. People say, hey, can you just look at my roof? Because most of it is cracked tile, chipped tile. You guys pretty much have some pretty strong tile. You got some chipped corners, but they're not a big deal, and most insurance companies don't really put that off on you.